Hello everyone, it's Ty. Goodness how time flies. It seems like only yesterday I was over the moon about Star Rail and absolutely disgusted with Zenless in our last Husbando review. Yet here we are, 6 whole months later and ready to do another. So today, we'll be going over the Husbando landscapes of the big three, but we may also brush slightly against a couple non-HoYo games that deserve our attention in our 6-month HoYo Husbando review. We may have to change that title. I suppose we'll start with the creme de la creme and get our fawning out of the way. 6 months ago, the delay of version 4 had us quite concerned with how things were going to go with Star Rail. Now, I can safely say it didn't hurt us at all, as far as I know. While we again had to suffer through a waifu patch as the opener for the version, the well-timed drip for 4.1 let us know that everything was okay. Very soon, we would get Ashvale, and he turned out to be an amazing DPS and support, demonstrating what seems to be a new design direction, DPS with built-in support capabilities. And while 4.2 was not but waifus, bringing a blessed breather before the well-dripped 4.3, it still brought us a fantastic Nova Flare for Welt, making him into a much more desirable and viable supportive character. Then, 4.3 unleashed Mortonak's Blade, who ended up being an unbelievably good support. And now we find ourselves in another lovely lull in 4.4, knowing that Wayventurine is on his way in 4.5. But what's this? An unexpected free Gilgamesh has appeared as well. That's 3.5 5-star Husbandos in just these past 6 months. Perfectly cadenced drip to keep us informed and excited, perfectly spaced releases to allow for savings, and every single one of them useful in their own right. Star Rail has easily maintained its status as the game doing it how it should be done. That's not to say it's entirely perfect. We've had an amazing first half of the version, sure, but just like last year around this time, we've reached the end of the pre-release Husbandos, and we're heading towards the unknown of the second half. As of this writing, there hasn't been any big second half drip to show us who to look forward to beyond Wayventurine. So all we have is speculation from the Myriad Celestia pre-version trailer and the story as a whole. Will we see Opal or Stephen Floyd before the end of version 4? How about Sampo? I'm still holding out hope for that Sampo SP. But we'll just have to see. Perhaps in the 4.5 livestream. What I know is that they've done right by us so far, so I have every faith in them going forward. Unlike Zenless Zone Zero. In the past 6 months of Zenless Zone Zero, we have gotten one f***ing Husbando. Again! I suppose you could say two, if you squint and are immeasurably generous enough to call Pyrois a Husbando, but that's honestly just overdose levels of cope. And it still doesn't even begin to address the steaming pile of elephant shit in the room. Starlight Billy was released on May 27th. The last Husbando before him was Banyue. On December frickin' 17th. 5 months, 10 days. And while I absolutely adore Billy, I also cannot help but notice that he was another Rupture character. Right at a time when the meta is clearly turning towards Anomaly again with the release of Valina and the new Wind element, and now Remiel and her entire Universal Anomaly Lumaflux deal. Moreover, as another Rupture character, he steps on the toes of Banyue and Monato because there still remains only one Rupture support. And yes, it's true that Lycon and Harumasa got buffs in February, but it doesn't really satisfy as well as Welt's Nova Flare did. It really loses a lot of its meaning when Harumasa is approaching 2 years without ever having had a rerun. And yes, he's finally coming back in 3.1, but even this rerun isn't actually a natural rerun. He's just appearing for his first time on the special rescreening banner. So, what of the future? Well, we've entered our new version and we've gotten our version teaser trailer. And in it, we saw 8,000 different waifus doing their damnedest to get simped for, but one single husbando who's actually featured long enough to be considered a possibility. Sure, we also saw this blonde guy in the background and this Tartaglia-looking guy, but that doesn't really mean much. When the subsequent drip-like images were released, Seth's brother Severian was the only husbando to receive one. To be fair, we did meet some guys in the story, the aforementioned blonde guy, Caranus, and a very Ashvale-like detective named Crow, but it seems far more likely that they're just Damien all over again. As of writing, 3.1 is just around the corner with Remiel and Sigrid. But the ZZZ drip cadence is still terrible, so we've no idea who's coming in 3.2 yet, though most speculation leans heavily towards more waifus. Why am I still playing this game continues to be a consistently recurring thought, especially when even the newer games I've started playing in these 6 months have managed, in just 6 months, to do better. Sort of. Neverness to Everness launched with a moderate husbando roster, only a single S-rank husbando in Baizang and 3 A-ranks in Adler, Skia, and Edgar. Still, it's plenty of characters to level up and keep occupied with for a launch. While the first banners were waifus, they established their drip cadence fairly well to fall right around the time of their livestream. They took a great first step, announcing very shortly after launch that 1.1 would include a new husbando in Chaos, but their subsequent steps in 1.2 and the 1.3 drip have been all waifus all over again. So it's a little rocky and uncertain as of now, and I do worry that Hota may do with NTE what they did in Tower of Fantasy, only releasing a new husbando once every other millennia. Yet, I still have more faith in NTE than I do in Zenless. Arknight's Endfield also seems to be doing better than Zenless. They started with a pretty solid field of husbandos at launch, with 2 6-stars in Pogranichnik and Li Fang, 3 5-stars in Wolfgard, Alesh, and Depan, and 2 4-stars in Catcher and Ental. Sure, their drip is basically non-existent since they only announce the characters during their live streams, and often they don't actually tell you when those characters are coming, but at least they've steadily made it clear that there are husbandos coming. It took us until 1.2 for our first new husbando, Camille, and our next, this horseman, could just as easily be in 1.8 as in 1.5. Yet, somehow, Endfield has still managed to keep me feeling optimistic and hopeful where Zenless has failed. Maybe it's just that NTE and Endfield are new, and so we haven't gone through the 2 years of infuriating nonsense that has worn away the shiny veneer of hope yet. Who can say? Maybe in another 6 months I'll be ranting and raving about them as well. Anywho, to get us out of this depressive rut, rising from the ashes is Genshin. In these past 6 months, we've gotten Ihlua, Varka, and Lowen. In 6.3, Ihlua ended up getting the short end of the stick, kinda getting the Panyin Hu treatment, and only being useful to very specific 5-stars. But that was honestly okay, because he was really just a little snack to hold us over after Durin and before Varka in 6.4. Quite possibly the hottest guy in the game, Varka was a fantastic DPS who paired perfectly with Durin. Then, after only a patch and a half, in 6.6 we got Lowen, whose cryo DPS was far better than expected. Lastly, while 6.7 was just another waifu, we did get a little extra treat with kit updates to Cyno and Wriothesley. Sure, we can't actually use those updates without a Polestar field, and the only character who currently creates a Polestar field is Sandrona, but that's only for now. Come version 7, Cryo Traveler will do the job just fine. And version 7 is right around the corner. In fact, as this is the end of version 6, we have the privilege of looking at Genshin as a version review as well. And really, whichever way you slice it, they've done a great job. 3 husbandos in 6 months, or 5 husbandos across the entire version, all of which were well spaced and well dripped to allow for saving and to alleviate worry. And while only 4 of the 5 were 5 stars, it's a hell of a step up from version 5. Admittedly, I'm still not a fan of the Genshin drip cycle. Not having drip until days into the new version means you can't really navigate your way prudently through the end of the last, but at least the waits have been worth it. And the future looks like it may be just as bright. We've already seen the drip for 7.0, which includes a 4-star good boy and his human Alyosha, but we also got the preview trailer that included at least 3 other possible husbandos in Mitya, Noi, and Valeri. Will they be playable? Will they be 5 stars? That's what we don't know yet, but they've done right by us in version 6, and so we can only hope that they don't fall back into their version 5 wave. So, to cut a long story short, I am over the moon with Star Rail and absolutely disgusted with Zenless. Star Rail has remained pitch perfect throughout. Even when they stumbled a bit at the start of version 4, they did not fall. And while I'm still uncertain of what comes next, I know enough to feel great about these last 6 months. So I will give them a well-deserved 5 out of 5 stars. Zenless is a rotting carcass that I can't seem to stop watching. Every so often, a gas pocket bursts and the corpse twitches, giving the impression that it may actually be okay. Over and over, I am left disappointed, yet still I continue to watch and wait. It's hard to say whose fault it is at this point, but they are the ones who have failed, and they are the ones who earn 1 out of 5 stars. Meanwhile, Genshin has done a remarkable job, both in these last 6 months and the entirety of version 6. As such, I give them a perfectly reasonable 4.5 out of 5. I can't help but feel that Ihlua was a bit of a stumble, and the fact that Alyosha's coming out of the gate as a 4-star is a mite worrisome, but I do believe it will all turn out alright by our next review. As for NTE and Endfield, well, honestly, I feel like if I were to judge them on their past 6 months, they'd be much higher than they probably ought to be, simply because I feel like they've done well and they haven't put me off in any way yet. But they've also both had 2 and 4 patches respectively, and only managed to release 1 husbando each, which does leave one to worry about their futures. So I think I'll leave off rating them for now and simply say I'm pleased with the both of them. But what do you think? Are NTE and Endfield worthy of high scores? Am I overly doting on Star Rail? Do you think Zenless isn't actually as bad as all that? Let me know down in the comments. But that will be the end of this 6-month Husbando review. Hopefully you found it entertaining, given that you seem to have made it this far, but either way, thanks so much for watching. If you like this sort of thing, please like and subscribe, and hit that bell to be notified when I post more things of this or any other nature. I'm not really sure what's coming next, but if you want to see it, subscribe and maybe come back, hey. Anywho, thanks again for watching, and I hope to see you all again next time. Bye!